In this video, we'll go over other media features we can use that are more device-specific. So whereas media features like width and height refer to the browser's viewport size, we can use special media features that refer to the entire screen area of a device. These device-specific features don't exactly look for a specific type of device. They instead look for the capabilities of a device. So, for example, on mobile devices, we can query things like the min or max device width along with the device's pixel ratio or resolution. So I've created a simple two-column article layout, which, as we can see, it's completely fluid. It only has one media query breakpoint for the layout and another one that keeps the layout from getting any wider than 1000 pixels. And as we can see, our layout has been optimized for smaller screens that are less than 768 pixels wide. Now, our main layout styles are in page.css, but we'll be adding our new media queries in style.css. I'm going to open up the iOS simulator for the iPhone so that we can see what our layout looks like on a mobile device. Now, this is just the standard 320 by 480 screen resolution, and we'll get to the Retina display in a bit. So when we load up our layout on the iOS simulator here, notice how the media queries have not taken effect. It's displaying the normal layout, not the one optimized for smaller screens. So our layout looks like it would on a desktop browser, but much smaller, which makes it difficult to see the content on the page. Well, this is because smartphones, like the iPhone, for example, use a virtual viewport that's larger than the actual screen size. This is so that it's able to fit everything into its 320 pixel wide viewport. So it zooms out as much as it can so that the entire layout can fit on the screen. Now, the iPhone is just one of many examples, as different mobile devices use different widths for their layout viewport. Now, we actually want our layout to look like this on mobile devices. So we'll need to add a special HTML meta tag that instructs the device how to handle the viewport size on mobile devices. So in our HTML file, under the title tag, we'll go ahead and add meta, the name attribute with the value viewport, followed by the content attribute and the value width equals device width. So we'll need to add this meta tag in order for our device media queries to affect our layout on mobile device browsers. Because again, it works with the device pixels to zoom in its layout viewport. So in the content value of our viewport meta tag, the width property is what controls the size of the viewport. And the value device width is 100% the width of the screen. So with this value, the device's browser will zoom in to fit the screen as much as it needs to according to the device width. So we'll go ahead and save this file and bring up our simulator. And when we refresh the browser, the viewport is zoomed in and the layout displayed is the one optimized for smaller screen sizes. Looks good. So now we can go ahead and explore some of the device media features, for example, device width. So in our style.css file, let's create a new media query. So I'll create a comment here that just says, these are our device media queries. I'll start with media, screen, and device width 479 pixels, and a set of curly braces. So the device width feature defines the full width of the device's screen based on its orientation. And like the width and height media features, we can also prefix these with min or max. So let's instead make this a max device width of 479 pixels. So let's say that we want to hide this comment section on any device with a width of 479 pixels or less. So in our style.css file, let's go ahead and do that. We will select the comments div, and we will add a display property and the value none. So we'll go ahead and save this. Now I'll bring up the simulator and the browser side by side so we can see the differences between the two. So in our browser, we'll go ahead and refresh. And as you can see, the comment section is still being displayed in the desktop browser version. But when we take a look at it in the simulator and we refresh the iOS simulator, we can see that the comment section is no longer there. Because remember, the media query we just created is only affecting devices with a full screen of 479 pixels or less. Even though our browser's viewport width is less than 480 pixels, it's not exactly checking for that. It's actually checking for the entire screen width of this desktop display, which is not less than 480 pixels. We can also use the orientation media feature, which can indicate whether the device is in landscape or in portrait mode. Landscape mode being when the screen is wider than it is tall, and portrait mode when the screen is taller than it is wide. So in our media query expression here, we'll go ahead and type orientation, and let's start with portrait mode. Now, so we can really see how this works, let's go ahead and select the body element where we'll make the background color red when it's in portrait mode. So we'll save this file, and I'll go ahead and bring up the iPhone simulator, and I will hit refresh. And as we can see, since the iPhone is in portrait mode, the background is red. However, if I switch the orientation to landscape, it goes back to the default color. So now in our style sheet, if we switch portrait to landscape and refresh it, the body is now red because it's in landscape. Cool. We need to be careful with these media features because orientation also affects our desktop layout, as we can see here. Well, this is because the browser is now wider than it is tall. So according to our media query, the orientation is landscape. And when the width is narrow and taller, it's considered to be in a portrait orientation. So because new devices are constantly being introduced into the market, and they sometimes change with the newer models, we'll need to make sure that our designs and layouts are future-proof. So I suggest using the max or min device width and orientation media features sparingly. It might be better to stick with max width and min width instead. This way, everything from desktop browsers, laptops, tablets, and mobile devices are covered.